The things that I think get missed most in the psychiatric population are the slowness and the change in their walking and their posture. Most schizophrenic patients who are treated with neuroleptics don't have significant walking problems or balance problems, even though you may see that they're a little bit stooped and they don't swing their arms so much. Try not to lose your balance. And they may be a little slow, but it doesn't really interfere with their activities all that much. But I'm going to do it harder. And in a sense, you can understand it. If their psychosis is under control and the patient's not complaining about something, terrific. Leave well enough alone. Why rock the boat? But I think there's a lot of Parkinsonism that goes on that's just not recognized. Or if it is recognized, people say, well, that's the price you have to pay in order to get adequate psychosis control. Do you ever have tremors? Do you ever notice that you shake?
Yes.
Does that
My
bother
thighs
you?
shake a lot, and my fingers shake a lot.
Okay, does that bother you much? The other problem is that they're often not able to supply history.
A little bit.
They often tolerate drug side effects because they've lived with them for 20 or 30 years. And I think they probably just shrug their shoulders and say, this is part of what's wrong with me. Plus, they've been treated for so long, and the development of these things may be so gradual that they don't perceive them. You take a drug, and all of a sudden your head twists like this. You know about it. You say it's the drug, very clearly identified. But you develop Parkinsonism, which develops over days, weeks, or months, and people don't know it. They notice when they have a tremor. So if their hand's going like this, they'll say, oh yeah, I shake, it's from my medicines. But if they're like this, and they move slowly, or their balance is a bit off, they won't recognize that, and frequently their doctors don't either. They all recognize the tremor. But beyond that, they frequently don't identify the other things, the stooped posture, the absence of arm swing, and the bradykinesia. Those often go unrecognized. Now with the right hand, go like this. This fellow has facial masking. Can you hold it sideways now? There you go. He has diminished, he's not much older than me, and that would be normal. Now with the left hand. And the left hand, you can see he's very, very bradykinetic. Okay, put your hands down. Up and down, the whole leg up and down. He's tapping his leg up and down, and he should be able to get a much, much higher amplitude and better speed than he's generating right now. So these are manifestations of his bradykinesia. Careful with your head. I want you to come out in the corridor. One of the issues that I face relatively commonly is, like him, the issue of a person who's being treated with an antipsychotic who develops Parkinsonism. And the question then is this purely drug-induced and will go away completely, never to return if they're taken off the drug? Or is it Parkinson's disease, sort of unmasked prematurely by drugs that do that, like the typical neuroleptics and risperidone, and to a lesser extent olanzapine? So I can't tell whether he might have underlying Parkinson's disease, but it did get better off the olanzapine. And back into the room.
Now, psychiatric patients can be visibly affected by their antipsychotic treatment. And I don't want my patients to look like they're on antipsychotic medications. We talked about your concern about the medicines you were on, that you would look medicated in these interviews. Could you tell me about that? What's the concern about that?
I am afraid that I'm not expressing a full range of emotions, that I look kind of rigid, that I look kind of medicated, and that people can tell that there's something wrong with me, just by observing me.
One of the terrible things about EPS is that it brands you as being on medication.
Well, it's kind of an unemotional quality about it, a lack of animation.
And the meaning of EPS is that they're visibly stigmatized by the side effect. Person on medication.
Right.
Just imagine what compliance to AIDS medication would be if you took a protease inhibitor that gave you some sort of physical side effect that made everyone know that you're on a protease inhibitor for your AIDS. I mean, think about that. Now, if you have a side effect that saps you of your energy, that may not be a problem when you're an inpatient and you're just going to groups or OT and you're not really stressed or taxed. When you are then discharged, that mild Parkinsonism will turn into major Parkinsonism,
Turn around, do it one
even
more
if the
time.
side effect hasn't changed, because the person's now back out in the real world and has to get a job.
Turn around.
So it's a major problem.
Do you have any problems with slowness?
Thanks.
Okay. Do the letters of the alphabet. I just want to hear how you talk.
A, B, C, D, E, F,
So
G,
a
H,
mild
I, K,
Parkinsonism on an inpatient ward turns into a severe Parkinsonism for the patient when their functioning improves.
Creatine, Pro Performance Kit.
The approach to treating these patients is to put them on an antipsychotic if they need one, which doesn't cause Parkinsonism as a side effect, or which doesn't worsen Parkinsonism if the person has Parkinson's disease.
So put him in the G building, and that was the end of the story.
When you were counting off on your fingers, your shaking stopped. Did you notice that?
Yeah, when you hold your hands together and you put your hands in a lock and hold it like this, it might just shake at the tips, but the basic hand movement stops.
There are only two drugs that don't worsen Parkinsonism, which are clozapine and quetiapine. That, to me, is the treatment of choice. You might advocate using either an anticholinergic or amantadine,
3 times a day.
but if you have a drug that causes side effects, the best choice is to get rid of the drug that caused the side effects rather than to add on yet another drug to counter those side effects and then contribute new side effects from the new drug. So it makes sense to try to transfer that. You had an honorable discharge before your psychiatric problems developed.
What? To my feet.
You had two left feet.
When they made that last parade in front of the generals and admirals, and I wasn't there.
Okay. And you think that was because your psychiatric problems were beginning then?
Yeah, because the marching, I couldn't march.
You couldn't march because of two left feet. What does that have to do with any mental illness?
The feet connected to the knee bone. The knee bone connected to the thigh bone.
And that's all connected to your brain. Is that right? I see. Okay. Okay.
Tardive dyskinesia is
Okay.
of very serious concern because of the threat to the patient that it can be permanent. All of the other side effects are reversible, but the threat to tardive dyskinesia is its potential irreversibility.
The other one?
The irony is that while on one level it's the most serious, on another level it's one of the least problematic on a day-to-day basis, because tardive dyskinesia for most patients tends to be mild and not distressing, whereas Parkinsonism and akathisia tend to be very distressing.